Good afternoon, everybody. It's Cat Grips here from Wildcat Solutions and the Business Success Society. And I'd just like to welcome you here to the next webinar in our series of lunchtime webinars that we've been running. And this one is on business planning. So we're just going to wait for the last few people to join us, and then we will get going. Okay, good afternoon. Let's get going then on this session on business planning. There is no better time to be doing business planning, in my opinion. So let's just sort of focus ourselves on this series of webinars that have already taken place. If this is your first one, then welcome. The others will be made available to you in the catch-up video, catch-up email later on today with listing all the videos. So today we're talking about business planning, having covered all the other topics that we have covered in the last week to 10 days. There will be recurring themes. There are a lot of recurring themes. I make no apology for that whatsoever, but just want to get the points across, I guess, so that we all understand where we are and where we're going with this. So as usual, we start with where are we? I think this is now into week 2 of lockdown, whatever you want to call it. And I think most people last week just spent a week trying to make sense of where we are or what we're doing, whether they can continue to trade, whether they're able to continue to trade, whether they want to continue to trade, and looking into the financial options open to them as well. So I think last week was a week for just kind of trying to, get our heads around it. And this week I'm sensing a slightly different vibe as well, in that people are now, they've kind of got used to the homeschooling routines and all the rest of it. And we're now thinking, I really don't want to spend, I'm hoping we're now thinking, I really don't want to spend the next potentially 12 weeks watching Netflix or sitting on the sofa. And so, perhaps people might be ready to do something a little bit different. So we've reviewed where we are in our businesses, and some of us are still trading. I'm trading not at full capacity, but I'm still trading. And others of you may be doing the same, might be able to continue to do some work at least from your kitchen table or your home office if you have one. Potentially sharing space with kids who need to get on and do homework or learn stuff online. But what I'd like to try and get across to people is this is a great opportunity to get ready for what will be coming down the line, and assuming that we want to continue to run our businesses, but maybe not in exactly the same format. And this is really what this business planning module is about, is that bit of thinking of what do I want to be doing in 3 months or 6 months time when we start to get back to normal, and then therefore getting ready. And seriously, other than when you first started out in business, however many years ago, we've not been given this gift of time to before. We've not been given this gift of time to have this luxury of being able to just sit and cogitate and think about our businesses. And I really want to kind of capitalize on that for myself, in terms of thinking, well, where do I want to be, what do I want to be doing? So and putting lots of plans in place to kind of get me there. So I think it's an absolutely amazing opportunity. And what I don't want is to look up in 12 weeks time and say, well, I watched the whole of Breaking Bad from the start again, or I've watched 17 box sets. I think that would be a little bit of waste of time. And I think this is our golden opportunity to do something different and potentially get ahead of the people who are just sitting posting rubbish on Facebook all day, and you'll know who they are because we're all seeing them. Business planning, I strongly believe, is a process, not an event. We probably did a business plan when we set up a business. We probably have done a business plan if you've ever had to apply for funding, finance, or any of these kind of things where somebody wants to know what your plan is. How rigid we are in terms of a full business plan any of those other times is probably, we will probably plan some marketing, we'll probably have a sales plan, but in terms of really drilling down into our businesses, our business model properly, probably very few of us do that as an ongoing sort of thing. But equally, I don't want it to be thought of as just something you maybe do once a year and forget about. It's not a document to be stuck in a drawer. It's something that should kind of live and breathe with us as well. So this is going to allow us to take stock. What will our business model look like in 3 or 6 months' time? And those may be two things, and there may be an evolution as well. And also about building in resilience as well. So this is our opportunity to think, if something like that, nothing like this, unless we have another pandemic, nothing like this will ever happen again. There are all sorts of different things that are going to come our way. I think this particular set of circumstances, as I think I've said in some of the other webinars that I've done, I defy anybody to have planned for all of this, because people not being able to work standing next to each other on a production line, there's all sorts of things that I'm sure nobody had ever planned for, ever. So thinking about building in resilience for the future, what happens if something like this or similar to this happens in the future? Will I be more ready in future? So my preferred tool is something called the Business Model Canvas. I'll try and get you a bigger version of that if I can, but I'm still not sure that you'll be able to see it, but it's a little bit bigger. Hopefully you can see that. And this is essentially a one-sheet business plan, which is a bit scary. And if you have one and you can print one off and you can print it on an A0 sheet of paper, the idea is that you stick it up on the wall and then you get your post-it notes, your colored post-it notes, and you put your post-it notes in the relevant boxes. And I'm going to go through those boxes in a minute. If you have more than one person in your business and you want to involve other people in it, and that's a really good thing to do, then it's a very sort of collaborative way of doing it, so that people can all have an input into the planning process. So we are going to go through each of the boxes and kind of talk about them, and the order in which they happen, which is quite key as well, because it kind of makes sense once you sort of see it going. So let me just find the slideshow again, and we'll go back to there. Okay, so number one in the top right, and I did think about trying to sort of split the screen and decided that just wasn't going to happen. So I'll just send you the image later. So if you want to re-watch this later, but the top right hand one is customer segment. And there's an argument, because the middle one is value proposition, and there's an argument for starting with the value proposition. But I generally, when I'm working with people who already have an existing business, I kind of start from the premise that you have a customer base now and that you're servicing, rather than you're starting from scratch with what can I produce, and therefore who will my customers be. So kind of think of it from that way around. If you're planning on starting an entirely new business, then you might sort of flip that round, but you'll see that the two are actually very, very closely related. They're two sides of the same coin, and you'll see how it kind of fits together in a minute anyway. So I want you to think about who your customers are right now, as in, the customer base you have now, even if they're not buying from you right now. And then you want to think about who your customer is going to be in the future. And as I've been saying to people, I don't want to be pessimistic. I don't want to be saying, oh, it's all doom and gloom and everything's terrible and nothing will ever be the same again. But we do have to consider that the things might look differently in September than they look now. I just chose that month at random. Don't hold me to it. That some of our customers may have gone out of business. Our customers might be behaving differently. They might have different influences. They might, for example, decide that this method of working with a lot of people working from home is a good model and they want to continue with that. And that might affect how you deliver your products and services. So think about, will the same market exist for your products and services in 6 months' time? And that might be actually, it might be more of a market for your products and services. There might be some people who, once people are out there and buying again, actually it's going to be really, really good for you. But this is the time to think about it, because if you think about what's going to come in the future and you think, you know what, I don't think that my current offering is right for that, this is your opportunity to change it. And that's why I've started with customer segments. Let's think about what you're currently doing. Is that going to fit in the future? Once you've had a think about who the customers are going to be, then, as you will no doubt be unsurprised to learn, I want you to think about your ideal customer avatar or avatars. This is the time to think, who are these people going to be? It might not be exactly the same as it is at the moment. It might be somebody different, but this is the time to actually think about, who is my ideal customer avatar going to be when we start trading again. And then, as I say, the value proposition. So you can, depending on exactly how you want to approach this, you might do this the other way around. So what can you offer those customers? So you might, if you're changing what you do, you might start by thinking, what do I do now? What could I offer? What am I upskilling in? What am I going to do different? And then think about the customers. But as I say, this will depend very much on whether you're going to continue to do the same things and just look for a new customer base, or whether you're going to change what you do. So what can you offer those customers, and what needs of theirs will you be fulfilling? And what problems will you be solving? This is all the core thing of your business. What actually does it exist to do? It's the old thing about if you make drills, something that makes a hole in a wall, you're not selling a drill, you're selling a hole. You're selling the solution that makes the hole. The customer wants a hole, so they buy a drill, all that kind of thing. So have a really, really good think about what it is that you're actually providing those customers with. What is it that you're doing for them, that you're providing for them? Do you save them time or cost by offering them a thing? Does that save them time, money, whatever? So they're buying the ability to save time rather than the thing itself. And getting your head inside that is really, really important. Do you provide a luxury item? Now, somebody was talking to me about this because they do provide a luxury item, and their avatar is very much, I always say, are you the Lada or the Lamborghini end of the market? She's very much more at the Lamborghini end of the market, but it's going to be a while before, even though those people will still have tons of disposable income, their need for her products won't ramp up immediately. They won't immediately switch on. So it's really interesting to really think about that market as well, in terms of, even if your customer has the money and the time and all the rest of it, it might not be the right market immediately. And, will people's attitudes have changed? It's one of the things I have been saying to people is, the environment is kind of healing while we're all not out there polluting it. And I think there might be, particularly in the millennials and younger, a bit of a backlash saying, why do we need to go back to the old way of doing things? We can pollute less. We don't have to have thousands and thousands of people piling into cities at rush hour. I'd already started to sort of say, why are we still doing that even before this? We started talking about low emission zones in cities and deterring people from driving into cities, and the capacity on the trains and all the rest of it. The actual proper solution was people don't need to work in offices all sort of, you know, crammed in together. So will people's attitudes have changed? So think about how you can then address that, how you can offer something that appeals to this new dynamic. I think there's also going to be a lot of people who are just very, very relieved to get back to normal, but there will be potentially opportunities for solutions that don't, don't return to the status quo. And I've put ideal customer avatar on there again, and I make no apology for that, because it is kind of the most important thing you could do now. It's like, who will my customer, what will I sell to, be selling to my ideal customer, and why? If you can get your head around that and don't do any of the rest of it, then you're already having a good start. The box sort of between those two at the top is customer relationships, and this is all to do with your communications plan. How do you communicate with leads, prospects, and customers? We talked about this last week in the, what should we call it, the lead magnet one, and the customer journey one, anybody who was on that. This idea of, this inbound marketing thing, this buyer's journey thing, the communication that you would do to a customer is different to the communication that you would do to leads and prospects, and bringing them through on that journey. So this is, again, a good time to be planning that out. If you need to attract new customers, you need to think about the content you have to be getting out to try to get them to come into your world and lead them through. It's also your opportunity to review your database and do that kind of grid thing as well, and work out where the gaps are. Who can I sell that product to? Who can I sell this new offering to? And having a look now at what groups of customers you've got, and who and potentially new offering, a new bundle would appeal to. Is a good time to be doing that. And review your customer journey. That whole piece from the minute they see you, read your blog, through all the way through operations, through invoicing, through all the way, is everything you're doing for customers the absolute best it can be. You've now got the time to make it fabulous, to shine it up and make it look great. And come up with your marketing plan. This is what you could be doing now, so that it's ready. Get content ready. It's not time to switch it on yet, although there's a certain amount of communication you can be doing with customers to keep them educated, remind them that you're there, without being too salesy, again, because people just at the moment want information. So they might want information in how they can run your system without you being there, that kind of thing. Sales channels, how did you deliver to your customers? So if it was very much a face-to-face thing, is that going to continue? How will you deliver to them in the future? Will there be just a different method of actually delivering what it is you do? So what has changed? What will change? What will come back? What won't come back? What will people want to do? How will this affect you and your customers? And how will you attract new customers into this world where you're delivering something in a completely different way? And you might have different sales channels, sales partners, distribution methods, all those kind of things. So once you've worked out who your customer is and what you're delivering to them, this is the time when you now work out how you're going to get it to them. So rather than running events, this is what I keep saying. Yes, there will be a certain amount of people who be desperate to get back to events, but there will equally potentially be a much bigger appetite for online events where people can, apart from anything else, fit in more of them. They can attend 2 back to back, which they couldn't do when they were 40 miles apart in Glasgow and Edinburgh. So think about events and things like that, and how that's going to affect how you deliver your products and services. Once you've got through all of that, this is where we get into our processes. Absolutely. So we talked about processes last Monday. So that video is there if you haven't seen it. And this is where you really, really want to drill down into your activities, into your processes, end to end. Absolutely every single thing, whether it's customer facing or internal, every single thing that you do that runs your business. So as I say, go and have a look at that video if you haven't seen it, and think about how you can document and refine and improve each one of your processes. Again, you've been given this gift of time. So generally people say, I don't have time to do that. So you don't have that excuse anymore. And if possible, test them. So in that video, I suggest that you do at least one process and you get somebody else to test it, whether it's another person in your organization or you buddy up with somebody else, and actually see whether they can run through it and actually do it themselves. Look at the customer journey. Everything we will have to do, everything's going to have to be customer focused. That is the way the world is anyway. The businesses that are truly customer focused are the ones that are going to be winning when we come out of this. Is it easy for them to do business with you, or is it a bit hard? Do you not make it easy for them to know how to place an order, how to pay you, how to engage with you? Can you, and I know that, I had a conversation with somebody about this, can you do a sort of write out a little thing which says, this is what will happen when you engage with me, and make that part of your proposal as well, so that they absolutely understand what's going to happen, what they have to do right from day one. Make it absolutely super easy for them to do business with you. And yeah, let's try and make it better. Let's just keep improving and keep improving. You've never had a better chance to sit down and do this. Key resources, this is kind of starting to get into a little bit more, the sort of nuts and bolts of it. People. So if you had staff before who should be furloughed now, because apparently even if they have been made redundant, had been made redundant when they'd made the announcement, you can still furlough them. Don't ask me how that works, but I've seen that today. So people that were in your organization, who I guess if they're furloughed are still in your organization, think about who you're going to need come, day zero when we take off again. Will they need a different skill set? So you can take two views here. You can either say, well, there's no position for that person anymore because we're not doing that anymore. But maybe this is just a time where you could get them skilled up to do something different. So while they're sitting at home, they could be getting skilled up. Don't ask me the legalities of whether while they're furloughed they should be doing training. I have no idea. But let's just assume that they can. But yeah, so people, think about the people you will need when we start moving again. Think about the tech you're going to need, whether that's software, systems, all those kind of things. Do you need to put in place new technology to run this new business of yours? Very probably. If you want to run online events, then there's a whole pile of new things that we're going, somebody's got to go. Just see what the chat says in case it's anything that you need to deal with. You can do training while furloughed as long as you choose to, right? Okay, thank you for that. Are you going to need to invest in new machinery? This is all just about the plan. I'm not suggesting that you're going to go out and buy anything, even if you could. But when we get further down the line, then you're going to have to plan. You're going to have to plan the cost of that. Things like vehicles, anything else that you're going to need in your organization to service your customers through the sales channels that we have mentioned. So this is really sitting down and getting into the nitty-gritty of the plan in terms of the people you need, the software and technology you need, machinery, vehicles, anything else that you're going to actually need in order to run your business in the future. And things like tech, you know, there's lots of free trials. So this is your chance to have a go and try and find the tech that you actually want. You'll note, if I go back a slide, if I can go back a slide. So when you do your processes first and understand your processes before you go out and look at tech. Don't just get tech and then try and work out what it's supposed to be doing in your business. Get the processes sorted out absolutely first. You may tweak them and improve them if you get a good bit of tech to help you. But if you don't really understand your processes first, then it's really hard to know what tech to put in place to resolve the issues. Just throwing tech at something, software at it, doesn't tend to resolve the process problems that you had in the first place. And the seventh box, we're now right on the left-hand side now, is called Key Partners. And I've put suppliers in there because working very closely with your suppliers is absolutely 100% desirable. And they should be wanting to work with you as a key customer, but it's going to be really important to have good, strong relationships with people like your suppliers in the future. And potentially you can be talking to them now if they still have a method of doing so. If you can still get hold of your suppliers to sort of say, this is what I think I want to be doing. Can we talk about how, you know, you're going to be able to supply me with that in the future? And they'll probably be delighted to have that conversation with you. And equally, you can have those conversations with your customers. Your accountant and your bookkeeper, absolutely, and legal and anybody else that you need in terms of those professional services. A coach or a coaching program, somebody to help you, to keep you motivated, to keep you on track, to make you accountable, all that kind of thing. And other partners might be people like collaboration partners. So you might suddenly see an opportunity where you could do something in the future, and you could team up with another small business to actually deliver something which would really, really be a fantastic offering for your customers in the future. So think about all of those kind of things as well in terms of who are the other people, the kind of the outsourced people, so marketing companies, all those people. Who are these people who can help you on this journey, who you can get into a good relationship with now and start talking about how you can be doing things in the future. Your accountant and your bookkeeper are going to be key over the next few weeks as well, I think, in terms of helping you through some of this. I'm just going to have a slurp because we're getting into the money bit now. So the last two are the costs and the revenues. So think about what your fixed costs were and what your fixed costs are going to be in the future. And you should have all these figures to hand. If you don't, then this is where your accountant, your bookkeeper can help. Excuse me. Think about annual costs and monthly costs, and whether you can help your cash flow by paying for something monthly. It's usually more expensive to do it that way, but you might be able to, particularly just to get you going for the first year again. And the thing about Business Model Canvas, although you can, and I do have some spreadsheets which you can use for some of this kind of thing, you know, the 12 months that you use can be any 12 months. And you can do Business Model Canvas for kind of any time period you want as well. It's not kind of really tied to any particular kind of reporting period or anything like that. This is about your business model, the way your business model works. And your variable costs, the costs of doing business in terms of, you know, which vary depending how much business you're doing. So that might be mileage or whatever. So try and, having got all of these other things in place, you know who the customers are, you know where they are, you know what you're delivering to them, you know how you're delivering it to them, you know what resources you're using to deliver it to them, you know the costs of acquiring customers, your marketing, all the rest of it, and sit and map out all those costs. And just think about at the moment, if you're paying for some things at the moment, what can you cancel at the moment and then restart if you need to? Or what could you cancel at the moment and never use again? But what can you cancel at the moment and then restart when you need to? So that's going to be really important as well in terms of keeping your costs right down now so that you're not struggling too much financially. So that's the cost thing. And then on the other side, what's the money going to be that's going to be coming in? So have you got any way of having regular monthly recurring income? And then the other side of it is looking at the activity income plan, which some of you will be familiar with, which I can send if anybody wants it, which is there's a list of my products and services. There's the number I'm going to sell in any particular month. And just start to kind of roll those numbers out to try and see, you know, where the money is going to be coming from. If you're more of a project style business, you take deposits up front to try and work out if you're starting projects, what money you can get in at the start, when the balances are paid, do you take stage payments, what are the timescales for that, looking at all the different options in terms of, you know, getting as much money in as you possibly can. Bearing in mind that, of course, everybody else is going to be wanting to do the same, and bearing in mind that everybody else is going to be trying to save on costs. Think about payment plans. Think about how you can come up with a plan that works for you and your customer. You've got to get paid absolutely 100%, but there's going to be a lot of costs of restarting, and it will take time for the money to start flowing again. And any other income streams that you might have. Again, I'm just going to mention the side hustles. I understand if people are doing side hustles to keep you going. Absolutely, you know, totally get that. But be doing this work in the background as well. But in terms of other income streams, this is other income streams for your main business that I haven't thought of already when I was doing this. So if there's any other income coming in that isn't covered by any of those kind of things that I've talked about there. So because we've been going for about half an hour or more, your challenges. So yes, there we go, half an hour. Your challenge, ideal customer avatar, absolutely 100%. If you're not working on this now, you should be. Think about your offerings, think about what you're going to be offering, and then think about who that person is who's going to be buying it in the absolute greatest detail that you can possibly muster, including what their hobbies and interests are, including where they hang out on social media, all of that stuff. Get that done. And if you've got more than one avatar, then absolutely fine, but work on all your avatars. Then think about your content marketing strategy. How are you going to communicate with them? How are you going to communicate with new leads and prospects and bring them into your world? Think about your social media strategy, your blogging, all the information that you have in terms of your new offerings. If you've got new offerings, how are you going to position that? How are you going to get it out into the world? And yes, think about your business processes. I'm not expecting you to do all this afternoon, by the way. Think about your business processes. Think about the customer journey. Think about everything that you do, because this is your chance to make it better. None of this, I don't have time nonsense. You have got time now to do this. Think about your key resources and partners, everything that you're going to need to take you through and get you going when we all get back to normal. And then finally, just think about the numbers behind that. It's if you break it down, it looks scary to begin with, but if you break it down into little bits like monthly subscriptions and monthly income and all those kind of things in the activity income planner, it actually makes it quite easy to do. So, as I say, that's a whistle-stop tour of the business model canvas and how it works. It is a lot of work if you want to do all of this, but If nothing else, if you just take away that last slide there and think about how you're going to address all of those, that's a fantastic starting point. And just take an hour, even if it's an hour a day, if all you can get is, because you'll need a bit of peace to do this. If all you can get is an hour a day in a busy household full of kids, I totally understand that. But you know what? An hour a day doing this, you've never done that before. If you do that every day, that's five hours this week. When did you last spend 5 hours doing this work on your business? And very few people, I would say, have spent 5 hours a week every week doing this. So it's a fantastic opportunity. And as I say, you only need an hour a day. I do a lot of thinking. I do my daily walk or whatever exercise you're doing. I do a lot of thinking. It's a nice time to be thinking. If you're not able to do your walk on your own and you're going with other people, that might be harder for you. But if you have got the chance of doing your walk or your exercise on your own, then sometimes that's a great time for your mind to run free and have a think about some of these things. And there's lots of reading you could be doing as well, just to keep your mind ticking over on your business and what we could be doing in the future. So I hope that's been useful. There's all the ways to contact me. Well, not all of them, but some key ways in which to contact me. I'd like to thank all of you for joining me here today. I hope that has been useful. As I say, it's very much a whistle-stop tour of the Business Model Canvas. It's a fairly big chunky topic normally, but hopefully this has given you a bit of an intro into it and a bit of an insight into how just spending an hour a day on your business could really make a difference. So I'm just going to switch off the recording. Thanks to those of you who joined me, and